This video is going to be about how fasting or eating a light breakfast can change your life, not only in appearance, but also in health. As you guys may or may not know, fasting has some great benefits for health. Um, there's a crazy claim I was about to make, but for the C word, fasting can help with that. That is my theory. I'm not saying that is a fact, right? So, yeah, basically you're starving toxins out of your body. In the Bible, it talks about to fast. I don't do it enough. I do quite a bit of intermittent fasting or having a light breakfast. Typically for breakfast, I just have an energy drink or some fruit and energy drink, or maybe like a fatty meal like eggs or something like that with some fruit. But typically my breakfast is juice, fruit, and always have caffeine. And the reason that is, guys, if you're into business or sales or whatever, or any job, you want to have peak focus. And whenever you're fasted or you're in a state to where you had just a little bit of fruit in the morning or a little bit of fruit and like a higher fat, just a small meal, you're going to be super dialed in. I've done times where I'm fast, and especially when you have caffeine in a fasted state, or if you have nicotine. I don't really have nicotine, but if you have all those things, you'll be super dialed in, because just like with alcohol, they say if you eat before or eat fattier foods or high carb foods, it lowers the effects. Whenever you're fasted or you have that light fruit, light, fattier breakfast, that's not going to fill you up, just kind of keep you light, not even satiated. Before that satiated point, just a little snack almost. You're going to feel super dialed in. You're going to get a lot of work done. And then you can have like a smaller meal later in the day, because you might get to the point where you're so hungry, you start fading out like that. So another kind of fattier meal with fruit again, maybe, or ramen with a rice noodle, but very low in carbohydrates. Not because carbohydrates are going to make you gain fat, just because they are going to be the number one thing that's going to make your brain fog. Your fried foods is going to cook you. Not saying you can't be productive, but we want every single advantage that we can get for our work. So that's going to be super beneficial for you. Number two, for appearance, or number two, I don't know the numbers. I'm just speaking off the cuff. High metabolism people, or is it the fact that they have a low appetite? So there are rare cases, it is super rare actually when you look at the data, of people that have a high metabolism. That's actually really rare to have indiscrepancies. What is more likely is that these people have low appetites. If you guys don't know David Lade, he was like the biggest fitness influencer whenever I was getting into fitness for aesthetics or whatever. And he to this day, he talks about how he just, if he didn't have to eat, he wouldn't. He just doesn't like it. He has a low appetite. When you have a low appetite or desire for food, you just eat less. Whenever you have caffeine, it lowers your appetite or any sort of stimulants. And I'm not obviously have these in the proper dosages, but this can lower your appetite, which as a result, you're naturally going to want to eat less calories. That's what certain people go to the doctor for, to take these drugs. It starts with an O, but it has terrible side effects. And all it does, the reason why it drives success is because of the lowering of your appetite. That's why there's a certain peptide that starts with an R people take, which hasn't seen to show negative side effects, but it suppresses your appetite, so where you don't feel super hungry, there aren't those negative side effects, but you still are going to eat less calories. Also, I do think the less calories that we eat, guys, I eat a lot of junk food and I just restrict my calories, but the more serious that you want to take your nutrition for your food, because you're only eating so much. So you want nutritious foods that you are eating. I make sure I have mixed berries every day, orange juice, and like a fattier meat typically, because I'm going to get most, or just a lot of nutrients from that. And then that allows me to splurge out a little bit more. But yeah, you want to make sure that you are having some super nutritious foods in your day, because you're only eating so much when you are restricting your calories. So making sure you're getting super foods in, like those mixed berries I talked about, blueberries. Well, that's in mixed berries, but blackberries, raspberries, orange juice, fatty meats like red meat, salmon, things like that. That's going to get a lot of nutrients in. So yeah, either that light breakfast or fasted, mixing that with caffeine, and then like a smaller to moderate sized meal later in the day. Want to kind of restrict those carbs. Not saying you can't have any for that later meal. And if you do, fruit is going to feel good. I notice it doesn't make me feel heavy if I have fruit or a smoothie or juice. And then you can in the day with that heavier meal to where you just, which I hate eating till I'm full. I don't think you should ever really eat till you're full. You should eat till you're satiated and then go to sleep. So super small breakfast or no breakfast at all with caffeine or a stimulant, and then moderate size meal, small to moderate size meal later in the day. And then, yeah, you can have a bigger meal to end the day. That'll naturally restrict your calories. If you're tracking, you'll notice that makes it easier to hit your points. You can have more of those carbs later in the day and things like that. And your carbs that you eat the day before are really going to fuel you for the next day. But I still suggest having, if you do have that light breakfast, to have some fruit, because those are fast digesting carbs and there's a lot of good micronutrients. This is something that I've done for the last 6+ months. I noticed it's made me a lot more productive in my work, with mental clarity, and just staying lean way more effortlessly. And also my client Theo does this while running multiple businesses. So it's been super beneficial for him and that bald guy. Very successful financially. So yeah, this is some heat. Not only is this going to help you with your health, the fasting is good for your health and limiting your food, but it's going to help you significantly with your work, structure, and productivity. So, and appearance. Boom.